Welcome back to Techstrong Unplugged. My name is Cassandra Chen, and today we have Rustam.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Rustam. I am living and working in Norway, in Oslo. I speak quite often at the conferences. I'm a Java champion. I'm a Google developer expert for cloud technologies, and that's what I usually talk about at conferences nowadays.
So, how did you get into technology?
Oh, that's a fun question. So it all started when I was a kid. So I was a teenager in my early teens, and then we found that magic room called computer science room with all the computers and stuff, and then we would just go there as often as we could and just do some coding and everything. And back then uh, it was quite old machines we had for a very short time in the beginning, but they were quite old, and only thing you could do on those was basic programming language. And that was very fun. But yeah, so that's how it all started. But it very quickly switched to much more modern and cool machines and everything. But we kept on doing that. So
That computer can only do basic programming.
yeah, but there was a language called Basic. So whatever, later there was a versions of that was called Visual Basic, and all this kind of stuff. But this was actually Basic. If I remember that correctly, that was either fully or somehow supported by Microsoft. So it was kind of one of the first languages that it was the first language that I was exposed to, basically.
How did you learn the language? Did someone have to teach you?
No, no, that didn't work like this. It worked. That was fun. So we would, our teachers, there were several, but they were smart people. So they would just give us a book or something with different pieces of code. Sometimes it would be even a printed thing or even handwritten thing or something like that. It was different versions of it. But they would give you a piece of code and say, look, try this. And then you would try it, and then you would be like, that works. Okay, what if I change something? And then if I change something else? And then you kind of started doing that. And then after a while, you got your own ideas. So then we would create even graphic games and stuff with that thing. And that was pain. That's not today's programming doing graphic things. Now you have processing, you have things kind of like this. That's much easier to do that, right? Back then it was crazy too. Imagine you had a screen, and on those machines, there were 7 of layers of a screen. And if you wanted to move two things towards each other, they cannot be on the same screen because the whole screen was moving. So you put one thing on screen 1, the other thing on screen 2, and then they could just move towards each other, for example.
That's like some illusion effect.
Yeah, basically. There was a lot of pixel moving and stuff like that. But that was fun. That's how I learned stuff.
That's really cool. You say you're involved in teaching kids today?
Kind of. So, I've been doing it quite a bit. I've been doing it at work. So every Christmas, we do this session for kids, for employees' kids. So they bring their, my colleagues bring their kids, and then we teach them. So what I usually do is, it can be several things, but very often it ends up being processing that I mentioned already, because it works very well for kids. It's a kind of two-sided thing, right? So one is technically it's a subset of Java. So technically you're teaching kids Java. And the other thing, it is also very visual. So it's actually, you can, draw circles, draw squares, make things move, make colors. And, it's very easy for kids to see very quick response or results of what they're doing.
Are you teaching them on the computer?
Yeah. So what we do is basically we have a room, we borrow a bunch of computers, give it to them, and then just tell them, explain very, very basics of this is a variable, this is thing, and this is a loop, and this is that. And now you're on your own. Try to draw a face on a screen, try to do this, and basic faces, right? So 2 circles, something for a nose, something for the mouse, and then you have a face.
So you have them do this in an IDE?
Yeah, so processing comes with its own IDE. If you've done any Android programming, it's very similar. It's basically the same IDE, but with a different engine in the background. So, no, sorry, not Android. Arduino, my bad. So it's this little simple bluish shiny kind of thing. But you can also do it on the web. So you can also do it in different ways. But it's not like Scratch or anything. So it's not graphical programming in a sense. So it needs a little bit of understanding. So the kids must be a little bit older. So that's the thing. And I've been doing also the same things for different events, different conferences, and things like that. Also for the participants and things. And that was really fun. It's really really fun.
What events have you taught this at?
Oh, it's quite a so. Okay, let me think. So I've done it. I think quite a few years ago. I've done it at NDC. I've done it at JavaZone quite a few times. I've done it at our internal stuff quite a few times. I've done it. Where was that? I've done it some other places. I was also supposed to do it at the first edition of Venkat's conference in US. But that got canceled during COVID, so we didn't get to do that. But we had like really fun setup there, ready and everything. What else? There were a few places as well that I can't really remember right now. But yeah, it's I've been doing it over quite some time, so it's kind of hard to remember all the
Is this
places.
like a kids workshop format? Do you do this for a few hours?
Yes, so it's a kids workshop format. You do it for a few hours, but I've done it for kids in different ages. Oh yeah, by the way, we also did it at me and a colleague of mine. We did it for a library, like local library or main library in Oslo. So the kids would come and we'll do that this thing as well. But what we did was I've also done it for a bit older kids, so more well, late teens, right? So, but then it was a different thing. So then I would teach them command line trick. So just give him a Linux or a VirtualBox or whatever that has a command line interface, and then I'll teach them what they could do. And a lot of them back then would have some experience because they would be like, "Oh, I'm running my own server for some kind of game, or I'm running something. I'm doing this for different things." But they kind of didn't know what they were doing. They were just copy pasting things. But when I was explaining how things work in a command line and all that, it would be, oh yeah, this is really cool. This you can do this and you can do that. So I did pretty much all ages from like 6, 7 to late teen, like 17, 18 or something like that.
Surprised you can get like 6 to 7 year olds typing code.
It's fantastic. It's amazing how much stuff they catch up. So as long as they can read and write, you can do that. It's fantastic. You just tell them. So what I usually do is like I show them a cup and I say, well, think of it as a variable. You can put stuff into it. You can take stuff out of it. It might be empty, it might be full, and it can contain different things. And then I tell them like simple things like, oh, this is a loop to repeat things, or this is something to check if else or something. And after that, you give them a little piece of code that they can copy. Maybe you don't even really need to do that. And after that, they will just go crazy. They will have so much fun. And and the most important task usually is to keep the parents a little bit on a distance because they get excited and they want to code. So then you're like, no, don't touch the keyboard. Let the kid do the work. And that's always fun to. I mean, people and kids react differently. So some needs one kind of encouragement, some other needs different stuff, but it's really fun.
Yeah, I think that's all really cool. And I can see how like the parents could be a little too hands on.
Yes, I mean, I totally understand them. They get excited. They really mean well, but then you're like, no, don't touch the keyboard. Let your kid do the work.
And I like the cup analogy. I never thought of like having a variable where you just like fill the cup.
That's very easy. Because I also came up with that some time ago, long time ago, and I keep on reusing it because usually those cups are made of some kind of glass or like, anything that you can basically write and erase with a whiteboard marker.
Yeah.
So that's also how I explain the names for the variables. So it's like, this is a cup. I'll call it an A or or a cat or a dog or whatever, and I can put whatever inside. So you can also have the variable contents and you also have variable names.
It's really cool.
So that's really I enjoy doing it, but it's also very different because I speak a lot at the conferences. I do a lot of workshops and all this kind of stuff. But it is very different from the way you teach grown-ups to the way you teach kids. It's
What are some of the differences there?
uh sometimes you take a lot of things for granted with a grown-up. I mean, if I come to you and start talking about like objects and variables and loops and stuff, I I kind of well, I mean, I will do a bit of like I will probably rephrase if I see that person does not understand me. But there's a lot of things you take for granted because you're like, oh well, you probably have done some programming. I probably have done some programming. We kind of have some common language to speak. With the kids, you really need to explain things that you yourself take for granted and you never thought of. And then sometimes you see funny things that are kind of generational thing because most of the kids nowadays are used to writing, typing, and playing on iPads. So when I gave them a laptop, it took me a while to understand why they were doing that. But they would do like, and I would like, yeah, type your, let's say your name with the capital letters. They would hit shift once and start typing, and they were like, it doesn't capitalize. And then they would do the same thing, hit shift and start typing. And we're like, no, you have to hold that and type. And they will be like, what? Because, iPads, you just turn on the shift thing and then you can type, right? So there is a lot of things that you like, for me, I never even thought was a thing, right? And then you end up like, oh, right. Yeah, okay. I did not learn how to type on an iPad. You did. Cool. But yeah, I mean, there is also other things, but this is the kind of the most basic and
Yeah, the
obvious
good
thing. Yeah,
observation.
yeah. It was fun. I laughed quite. I had a good laugh after I realized what was actually going on. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I really enjoy it because it's very. It gives me a lot of energy as well because when I see them being excited about things, when I see them being happy about things, and how much and fast they learn, it's just amazing. It's just you're getting very happy.
I also teach a lot of kids workshops, and I get that same sort of energy and feeling.
It's you give some energy and you get some energy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've had a really good chat today, so thank you, Yusuf.
Thank you so much. Thank you.